Welcome to Lose Lips, all the things you wanted to say but didn't know how to say it. Today's topic is if Putin is going to have an election, to Putin, why have an election when you have already declared yourself president? If you were so secure in your status, why get rid of everyone who opposes you? Now, it amazes me that Putin would even declare his run for presidency when it is obvious that the results are skewed and they are not really elections. Putin does what he wants to do, and after being in power for so long, he does not want to give that up. After all, if he is not president, what is he? What does he have? So, what does he have these false elections for? And declare he is president again because the people voted for him. In his recent annual address to the public, you can actually see on the screen when the public is texting questions that they are not happy. But does Putin care? Does he even address what his country wants? No, because it is about, and always has been about, what Putin wants, and only what he wants. Anyone that stands in his way gets eliminated. Now, Putin holds elections even when he falsifies the results for several reasons, such as he wants to create a facade of democracy and legitimacy, both for his domestic audience and the international community. By holding these elections, Putin can claim that he has the support and consent of the people, and that he respects the Constitution and the rule of law. But everyone knows this is a lie and fabricated. No one from the international community believes him. The people inside Russia, I don't think they believe him as well. I think the only people that are voting for Putin are in the Duma. But the ordinary citizens have trouble believing that Putin is great for them. This is actually proven by the astounding results that Navalny received when he ran against Putin. Now, he also might hold these elections to consolidate his power and control over the political system and the society. By holding elections, Putin can eliminate or marginalize his opponents, reward or co opt his allies, and manipulate or intimidate the voters. He can also use the elections as an opportunity to mobilize his loyalists and propaganda his achievements. Basically, you are not emulating a democracy, you are emulating autocracy, communism, lies, fabrication. There is a special place in hell for people like you, Putin. He also may want to test and improve his electoral machinery and techniques. By holding elections, Putin can experiment with different methods of fraud and manipulation, such as ballot stuffing, multiple voting, vote buying, administrative pressure, media bias, and cyber attacks. He can also monitor and evaluate the performance and reliability of his subordinates and supporters. But what is astounding is that this goes on, and no one stops it. It is because of his subordinates in the Duma and his loyalist supporters that have jobs and money that they do what he says because they don't want to lose the status quo. So I even ask myself, why go through so much trouble? Are you worried you can actually lose? Putin's true feelings and intentions are not known to the public. However, there are some signs and factors that suggest that Putin may be concerned about the possibility of losing the 2024 presidential election. Now, some of these are Putin has launched a full scale war against Ukraine, which may be seen as a way to boost his popularity and distract the public from the domestic problems, such as the economic crisis the COVID-19 pandemic, and the political repression. There are numerous stories coming out about people in Russia and that they're tired of the war, especially the wives. And in order to shut them up, the government has started to pay them. But silence can only last so long, especially if they come back in body bags. There is also indication by his recent address that prices are skyrocketing in Russia, and people are not happy about the increase on paying for normal staples such as eggs, vegetables, and fruit. Putin has also cracked down on the opposition and civil society, banning or jailing his critics, labeling them as foreign agents or extremists, and restricting their access to the media and the internet. This definitely shows insecurity in my mind. Why jail someone or even put false accusations on someone if you were so sure you would win in a real election? Putin has also amended the Constitution to allow him to run for 2 more terms, which may indicate that he does not trust his potential successors or that he fears losing his power and immunity. Now, this actually resonates as truth, as in order for him to stay out of trouble, he needs to remain in power. Now, of course, he is not allowed in many countries, and there is a warrant out for his arrest should he go to these countries. So basically, he is stuck. Interestingly, though, by amending, you are also creating the future of the person after you to do the same thing. Now, when Putin dies or is assassinated, who is to say his successor will not be able to stay in power for 7 terms? Putin has delayed or avoided announcing his candidacy for the 2024 election, which may suggest that he is uncertain or hesitant about his prospects or plans. Now, it is obvious that he is going to run, whether he has stated or indicated. He is already placing things in motion for him to run his fake election. And of course, he will declare himself the winner. Yes, there are people who are running against him, but we all know that the results will show that these opponents either have not gotten the votes or will be eliminated out of the race. These are some of the reasons why Putin may be scared of losing the 2024 election. However, it is important to note that Putin still has many advantages and resources that make him a formidable candidate, such as his control over the state apparatus, the security forces, the media, and the electoral system. Moreover, Putin does not face any credible or popular challengers, as most of his potential rivals have been eliminated or marginalized. Therefore, the answer to this is not simple or even clear, and it may depend on various factors, such as the course and outcome of the war, the public opinion and mood, and the international pressure and response. Putin has never faced an honest election or a serious challenge to his rule. Now, Putin could accept a defeat and step down peacefully, following the example of other authoritarian leaders who have lost elections, such as Mikhail Gorbachev in the Soviet Union, Suharto in Indonesia, or Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe. But the way Putin has run Russia, this is not going to happen. Unfortunately, Russia is so much intertwined with Putin. There is so much that he keeps close to him that it is possible the country won't even know how to run without him. Putin could reject the defeat and refuse to leave power, triggering a political crisis and a popular uprising, similar to what happened in Belarus, Ukraine, or even Kyrgyzstan. Honestly, if Putin were to lose an election, I do not think the public will be privy to it. I think the results will be skewed, to show that he is the favorable candidate. Putin could manipulate the defeat and use it as a pretext to declare a state of emergency, dissolve the parliament, or change the constitution, consolidating his power and eliminating his opponents. Would chaos reign if this were to happen? I don't think so. The Russian people are so brainwashed to think anything else. It is not likely that an uprising will happen, as the majority of the population is poor and uneducated. They will take whatever is said to them, whatever is seen on the TV, whatever is read to them on the radio as facts, and leave it as that. These are some of the possible outcomes of Putin losing an honest election. However, these scenarios are based on assumptions and comparisons, and they may not reflect the reality or complexity of the situation in Russia. Therefore, the answer to this question is not certain or even conclusive, and it may depend on various factors, such as the level and nature of the opposition, the reaction and role of the security forces, the involvement and influence of the international community, and the will and mood of the Russian people. I don't think the international community will bother with the results one way or another. I do think that by declaring his candidacy and also his next term, people will see Putin for what he is, not a real president, but a dictator who manipulates to his own liking. So, based on all of this, I even ask, why do Russians vote for Putin? But from what I was able even to find, these are some of the possible reasons. Now, Russians actually see Putin as a strong and successful leader who has restored national pride and standing in the world, especially after annexation of Crimea and the war in Ukraine. But this is only within, not outside of Russia. No one recognizes Crimea as Russia. Everyone in the international community sees it as Ukraine. Putin has maintained a tight control over the political system and the media, limiting the opposition and the alternative sources of information. Many Russians are not aware of or do not trust the criticism and allegations against Putin, such as corruption, human rights violations, or electoral fraud. This is more true than ever as Russia has restricted internet access, VPN access, and has even restricted what news outlets can even say to the public. Putin has benefited from the patriotic and nationalistic sentiment that has been cultivated by the Kremlin, especially after the Western sanctions and the perceived threats from NATO and the US. Many Russians view Putin as a defender of Russia's sovereignty and interest against the external enemies. Even when some of the atrocities were able to get into Russia over Bucha, many Russians did not believe it was true or even accurate. They thought it was all lies. Putin has exploited the fear and uncertainty that many Russians feel about the future, especially in the context of the economic crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the political instability in the region. Many Russians prefer the status quo and stability that Putin offers rather than risk taking change and chaos. These are some of the reasons why Russians vote for Putin. However, it is important to note that not all Russians vote for Putin, and that there are also voices of dissent and protest in Russia. For example, some Russians support the opposition leader Alexei Navalny, who has been jailed and poisoned by the Kremlin, or other candidates who challenge Putin's rule. Some Russians also participate in demonstrations and rallies against Putin's policies and actions. But it is obvious that real change will not come to Russia until Putin is gone, as well as the current Duma. Only time will tell how long or what it will take for a regime change. Navalny tried and was jailed, but even at that time, you see what happens when you oppose Putin. Even during the war, you see that people that went against Putin either disappeared or were poisoned or fell out of windows. Russia is in a state spiraling downward. It is only evident that eventually things will change. For the people, you can only hope that it will get better. But Russia needs to decide if it wants a true democracy or if they will always be known as a dictator state. That's all for now. Thanks for listening to Lose Lips, and until the next time.